The massive crystalline doors of the Galactic Council's judgment chamber hissed open with an ominous finality. Ambassador Marcus Kane stepped through, his black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast against the luminescent walls that pulsed with alien energy. Behind him walked Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief xenobiologist, her calm expression masking the gravity of what lay ahead. The chamber was a cathedral of judgment, a spherical amphitheater where representatives from 47 species sat in ascending tiers. Their forms ranged from the ethereal Veiltar, floating wisps of consciousness contained in crystalline shells, to the hulking stone-skinned Gorvani, each the size of a small building. Energy beings crackled in containment fields while aquatic species floated in transparent spheres filled with their native atmospheres. The diversity was staggering, representing civilizations that had ruled the stars for millennia. At the chamber's apex, High Arbiter Thalun's 6 eyes fixed upon the humans with predatory interest. His crystalline form towered above all others, fragments of pure light dancing within his transparent body. When he spoke, bioacoustic translators carried his words to every corner of the vast space, each syllable heavy with the authority of galactic law. Humans of Earth, Thalun's voice resonated through the chamber like thunder. You stand accused of violating the Treaty of Cosmic Non-Interference. Your species has been observed making unauthorized contact with the Kalari mining colonies in the Outer Rim territories. Marcus stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back. The silence stretched between them, tension crackling through the chamber like electricity. Several alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their specialized seating arrangements. Humans were known throughout the galaxy for their immediate responses, their emotional outbursts when cornered by superior authority. This calm was unexpected. Furthermore, Thalun continued, his crystalline form growing brighter with mounting authority. You are charged with technological theft. Our long-range monitoring stations detected human vessels using drive systems far beyond your civilization's recorded development level. These technologies belong to Council member species and were acquired through illegal means. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward slightly, her scanning device discreetly recording the biosignatures and energy patterns of every species present. She made no attempt to hide the device, yet somehow her actions seemed routine rather than threatening. Still, neither human spoke in their defense. The Galactic Council had expected desperate pleas, frantic denials, or the kind of emotional bargaining that typically marked interactions with primitive species facing extinction-level sanctions. What they witnessed instead was something that made even the most ancient civilizations feel an unexpected chill of unease. Calculated, purposeful silence. High Arbiter. Thalun's voice took on an edge of growing irritation. The penalty for these violations is immediate quarantine of your home system and implementation of technological regression protocols. Your species will be reduced to pre-space flight capabilities, your colonies abandoned, your people confined to their birth world until such time as proper development can be naturally achieved. He paused, expecting the terror that such a pronouncement typically brought to younger species. Entire civilizations had collapsed from lesser sanctions. The elimination of faster-than-light travel alone would doom any interstellar society to slow extinction as their far-flung colonies withered and died. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Thalun demanded. Ambassador Kane finally smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both diplomatically appropriate and subtly predatory. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, measured, and carried an absolute confidence that seemed to fill the enormous chamber despite its soft volume. High Arbiter, we genuinely appreciate the Council's concerns regarding these recent interactions. However, I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of these encounters and humanity's role in them. The chamber fell into a deeper silence. Something in the human's tone suggested this trial was about to take an unexpected direction. The casual confidence in his voice was wrong for a species facing annihilation. We did not violate the Treaty of Cosmic Non-Interference, Kane continued, his diplomatic smile widening slightly. We exercised a clause that most species seem to have overlooked in their interpretation of galactic law. In the observation galleries that ringed the chamber's upper levels, junior diplomatic staff from dozens of species began frantically searching their legal databases. What clause could possibly justify unauthorized contact with protected civilizations? The treaty had been written by the galaxy's greatest legal minds and refined over thousands of years. The Kalari representative, an insectoid being whose species had been the supposed victims of human aggression, clicked his mandibles in agitation. There is no such clause. The treaty explicitly forbids contact between advanced civilizations and those still developing interstellar capabilities. Kane's expression remained patient, almost professorial. Hive Speaker Veltar, I understand your confusion. The clause in question has not been invoked for several thousand years. Most current legal scholars are unfamiliar with its implications. Dr. Vasquez activated her scanning device, projecting a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The ancient text of the treaty appeared in the original Vorthak script, the language that served as the galaxy's legal foundation. Specific sections began highlighting in brilliant blue light. Article 7, subsection 12, she announced, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Quote, any species that demonstrates technological advancement through direct conquest of a council member's military assets shall be granted provisional sovereignty status, pending full evaluation of their capabilities and intentions. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Several representatives began urgent consultations with their legal advisors, their various forms of communication, creating a babel of sounds, lights, and pheromone releases. The Vorthak delegate, whose ancient ancestors had written the original treaty, began the trembling motion that indicated extreme distress in his species. That clause, Thalan stammered, his bright form flickering with confusion, has not been invoked in over 3,000 years. It was written during the expansion wars when the galaxy was far more primitive and chaotic. Kane's smile never wavered. Ancient, perhaps high arbiter, but still legally binding under galactic law, as written in the Council's own permanent charter. The holographic display shifted, showing detailed recordings of recent space battles. The assembled delegates watched in stunned silence as human vessels, ships that should have been crude and primitive by galactic standards, systematically dismantled a Kalari patrol fleet with surgical precision. These were not the brutal, chaotic engagements typically associated with developing civilizations, making their first violent contact with galactic society. The human tactics demonstrated an understanding of advanced military doctrine that should have taken centuries of formal study to develop. Their weapons technologies appeared to be modifications of existing council designs, yet somehow improved beyond current specifications. Most disturbing of all, their coordination and communication systems operated with an efficiency that suggested infrastructure far beyond what Earth's monitoring had revealed. The Kalari mining operation and system, Chiwiforan, was protected by what your military considered a standard defensive arrangement. Dr. Vasquez explained with clinical precision. 12 heavy cruisers, 46 escort vessels, and 2 dreadnought-class battleships. According to Council military doctrine, this force represents more than sufficient firepower to repel any conceivable threat from a developing civilization. Hive Speaker Veltar's chittering grew more agitated. Those vessels were destroyed in 18 minutes. Such destruction is impossible for a species that our surveys indicated was barely capable of interstellar travel. Kane stepped forward, his diplomatic demeanor never cracking despite the magnitude of what he was revealing. Which brings us to the real reason we are here today, honored representatives. The Council has operated under a fundamental assumption about humanity that requires immediate correction. He gestured to Dr. Vasquez, who activated another display function on her device. This projection showed Earth's solar system, but the image was unlike anything the Council's extensive surveillance network had ever detected. Hidden installations orbited every planet in perfect concealment. Massive construction yards floated throughout the asteroid belt, their scale dwarfing anything in Council space. Most shocking of all, artificial structures completely surrounded the system's star, a Dyson swarm of impossible complexity and technological sophistication. You see, honored Council, Kane continued in the same conversational tone, your surveillance of Earth has been remarkably thorough and professionally executed. Your scientists correctly identified our surface technological development, our political structures, our apparent military capabilities, and our social evolution patterns. He paused, allowing the implications of the display to sink into minds that had considered themselves the masters of galactic intelligence gathering. What your otherwise excellent observations missed, Kane said with gentle correction, is that none of those carefully... The chamber erupted into chaos as the impossible images burned themselves into the minds of beings who had considered themselves masters of galactic intelligence. Representatives shouted questions in dozens of languages, while their bioacoustic translators struggled to keep pace with the sudden flood of panicked communication. The orderly proceeding had transformed into something approaching pandemonium. High Arbiter Thaliun's crystalline form flickered with confusion and growing alarm. His 6 eyes remained fixed on the holographic display showing Earth's true infrastructure, as if staring longer might reveal it to be some elaborate deception. "This is impossible," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the chaos. "Our monitoring systems are the most advanced in the galaxy. No civilization could hide such extensive development." Ambassador Kane raised his hand and somehow, impossibly, the chamber fell silent. The gesture carried an authority that no primitive species should have possessed, yet even the most ancient and powerful beings found themselves responding to it instinctively. When had a diplomat from a supposedly developing world gained such command over the galaxy's most influential assembly? "High Arbiter," Kane said with patient understanding, "your monitoring systems detected exactly what we intended them to detect. They performed their functions with remarkable precision and efficiency." Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her scanning device now projecting a different set of images. These showed the Council's own surveillance installations throughout human space, massive sensor arrays, stealth monitoring stations, and intelligence-gathering networks that represented centuries of careful observation. Every installation was clearly visible and apparently functioning normally. "What your systems recorded," she explained with clinical precision, "was a carefully maintained simulation that we call the Surface Protocol. For the past 200 years, humanity has presented exactly the image we wanted the galaxy to see. A young, chaotic species just beginning to reach beyond their home world. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. If humanity could maintain such an elaborate deception for centuries, what else might they be capable of?" The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, flickered with what could only be described as fear. Kane gestured to the holographic display, which now showed real-time footage from across the galaxy. Human vessels moved through distant star systems with casual efficiency, their sleek designs making Council ships appear primitive by comparison. Mining operations that dwarfed entire Council colonies, processed asteroids with technologies that seemed to ignore basic physical limitations. Research stations studied cosmic phenomena that the galaxy's greatest scientists could not even detect, much less understand. "The Earth you have been observing," Kane continued, "serves multiple purposes. It maintains the appearance of our natural development, while providing a controlled environment for specific research projects. The political conflicts, the environmental challenges, the technological struggles, all carefully orchestrated to present authentic development patterns." Hive speaker Veltar's mandibles clicked frantically. "But we have agents throughout your society, embedded observers who have reported on your civilization for generations." Dr. Vasquez smiled for the first time since entering the chamber, and the expression was somehow more unsettling than her previous clinical demeanor. "Your agents have been extremely valuable to our research, Hive speaker. They have provided excellent data on Council intelligence gathering techniques and operational procedures." She activated another function of her device, displaying detailed psychological profiles of known Council operatives throughout human space. Every spy, every hidden observer, every covert intelligence asset was identified with complete biographical information, behavioral analysis, and operational history. "We have been conducting what we call the Galactic Behavioral Study," Dr. Vasquez explained with academic enthusiasm. "For 3 centuries, humanity has been observing how various species interact, how they form alliances, how they respond to perceived threats, and how they gather intelligence on potential rivals." The revelation struck the chamber like a thunderbolt. They had not been studying humanity. Humanity had been studying them. Kane walked closer to the center of the chamber, his presence somehow commanding attention from beings whose species had dominated interstellar space for millennia. "Every major decision made by this Council in the past 300 years has been observed, analyzed, and recorded. We understand your individual psychology, your species-specific behavioral patterns, your cultural motivations, and your deepest fears. The holographic display shifted to show detailed behavioral analyses of every species present, trade preferences that had never been publicly revealed, internal political structures that were classified beyond top secret, genetic weaknesses that were known only to their own medical establishments, cultural taboos that were considered sacred knowledge. Humanity had compiled comprehensive intelligence on every galactic civilization. The ethereal collective, Kane said, gesturing to the energy being, requires specific quantum frequencies to maintain cellular cohesion across your distributed consciousness. For the past century, you have been receiving those frequencies from what your scientists believe to be natural cosmic phenomena. The ethereal's crystalline containment unit flickered in alarm. Those frequencies were essential to their survival as a species. Without them, their entire civilization would face extinction within a matter of months. Kane turned to another section of the chamber. The Kalari depend on pheromone-based communication systems that operate across interstellar distances. The dark matter streams your scientists discovered 40 years ago, which revolutionized your colonial communication networks, are actually artificial constructs maintained by human engineering. Installations, Veltars. Chittering reached a pitch that registered as pure panic to his species. The communication streams were the foundation of Kalari interstellar civilization. If humanity controlled them, they could isolate Kalari colonies at will, leaving their scattered populations helpless and unable to coordinate any response. The Gorvani require specific mineral supplements to maintain their silicon-based biology, Dr. Vasquez continued, her tone remaining academically detached. The asteroid mining operations that provide those minerals are managed by automated systems that you believe to be the result of your own technological advancement. Granite crusher Malvex, the massive stone-skinned representative of his species, spoke in a voice like grinding mountains. You claim to have manipulated every aspect of galactic civilization, yet you speak as if this massive deception serves some greater purpose beyond simple dominion. Kane nodded appreciatively. An excellent observation, Granite Crusher. The deception was never an end in itself. It was a necessary tool for gathering the data we required. The holographic display showed new images that defied comprehension. Massive construction projects scattered throughout the galaxy. Structures so large they dwarfed entire star systems. Technologies that appeared to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe as casually as a child might rearrange building blocks. Every species in this chamber, Dr. Vasquez announced, has become integrated into systems that humanity designed, built, and maintains. Not through conquest or coercion, but through careful introduction of our technologies into your existing infrastructure. The scope of human influence became clear as the display showed the intricate web of dependencies that connected every major civilization: power generation systems, transportation networks, communication infrastructures, even basic life support technologies. All had been subtly modified or enhanced with human innovations that made them indispensable. Your golden age of peace and prosperity, Kane explained, has not been the result of evolved galactic wisdom or superior diplomatic skill. For 3 centuries, conflicts that should have erupted never materialized because we prevented them. Resources appeared exactly where they were needed because we provided them. Scientific breakthroughs occurred with remarkable frequency because we guided them. The terrible truth settled over the chamber like a suffocating blanket. Their civilization's greatest achievements had been orchestrated by a species they had considered primitive. High Arbiter Thalan's voice cracked with desperation. What do you want from us? What could you possibly gain from this elaborate manipulation? Kane's diplomatic smile returned, but now it carried an edge that made several representatives unconsciously lean back in their specialized seating. High Arbiter, I believe you are asking the wrong question entirely. He gestured, and the chamber's lighting dimmed except for the area around the human delegation. The question is not what we want from you. The question is what we are going to allow you to become. The silence that followed Kane's words was absolute and terrifying. In a chamber designed to contain the voices of 47 different species, the complete absence of sound felt unnatural, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. High Arbiter Thalan's crystalline form had dimmed to barely a flicker, while around the amphitheater, representatives from the galaxy's most powerful civilizations sat frozen in various states of shock and disbelief. Kane allowed the silence to stretch, understanding that his audience needed time to process the magnitude of what they were learning. When he finally spoke again, his voice carried the patient tone of a teacher addressing students who had just discovered that everything they thought they knew was wrong. The infrastructure for what you call galactic civilization, he said, gesturing to encompass the vast chamber around them, was never actually yours to begin with. You have been living inside a human-designed system for so long that you have forgotten what independence actually feels like. Dr. Vasquez activated her device once more, and the holographic display showed a star map of the entire galaxy. Systems began lighting up in blue, one after another, spreading outward from Earth like ripples in a pond. The progression was methodical, inevitable, and absolutely comprehensive. Within moments, nearly 2/3 of all inhabited systems glowed with humanity's hidden presence. These are the locations currently under direct human administration, she explained with clinical precision. Not occupation in any traditional military sense, administration. The species living in these systems do not know we exist. We have simply been optimizing their development while studying their behavioral patterns. The scope of human influence was staggering. Systems that the Council considered independent had been under human management for generations. Entire civilizations had evolved within parameters that humanity had established, their cultures shaped by influences they never suspected existed. Kane stepped into the center of the chamber, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. For 3 centuries you have enjoyed what you believe to be an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity. Trade disputes that should have escalated into wars somehow found peaceful resolution. Resource shortages that should have caused social collapse were mysteriously alleviated. Scientific breakthroughs occurred with suspicious frequency, always at precisely the moment when they were most needed. The pattern was becoming clear to the assembled delegates, and the realization filled them with growing horror. Their greatest achievements, their most treasured periods of cultural advancement, their proudest moments of scientific discovery, all had been orchestrated by an unseen hand. The Veiltar Enlightenment, Kane continued, addressing the ethereal beings directly, occurred when your species received mathematical insights that revolutionized your understanding of quantum consciousness. Those insights came from ancient texts that your archaeologists discovered in supposedly lost ruins. The Veiltar representatives' energy patterns fluctuated wildly. Those texts were considered the most sacred discoveries in their species' history, the foundation of their current technological and spiritual advancement. The ruins were constructed by human archaeological teams, Dr. Vasquez added matter-of-factly. The mathematical principles were simplified versions of concepts we developed centuries earlier. We placed them where your exploration missions would find them at the optimal moment in your cultural development. Kane turned to another section of the chamber. The Great Kalari expansion was made possible by the discovery of hyperspace navigation techniques that allowed your species to establish colonies across 12 star systems. The breakthrough came when your scientists detected gravitational anomalies that revealed the underlying structure of folded space. Hive Speaker Veltar's mandibles clicked in distress. The expansion had transformed the Kalari from a single-world species into a major galactic power, the defining achievement of their civilization. The gravitational anomalies were artificially generated, Kane explained. Our engineers spent 30 years creating the precise conditions necessary for your scientists to make their discovery. We wanted to see how your species would adapt to rapid territorial expansion. The revelations continued, each one more devastating than the last. The Gorvani's legendary mining technologies had been developed from principles discovered in meteorites that humanity had strategically placed in their asteroid fields. The ethereal collective's breakthrough in energy manipulation had come from studying cosmic storms that human weather control systems had artificially created. Every major advancement in galactic civilization could be traced back to human intervention. But the most impressive aspect of our management, Dr. Vasquez said, activating a new display function, has been the military coordination. The holographic projection showed real-time positioning data for every military vessel in the galaxy. What the assembled delegates saw defied all their assumptions about interstellar politics and military independence. Their supposedly autonomous fleets were arranged in perfect formations around human installations that they had never known existed. The movements of every ship, every patrol route, Every defensive positioning followed patterns that revealed an underlying coordination system of impossible sophistication. Every vessel in the galaxy, Kane announced, has been constructed using materials that we provided, refined through processes that we designed, and assembled using manufacturing techniques that we developed. War leader Thaxmore of the Battlestar Republic stood abruptly, his massive armored form radiating indignation.
Impossible.
Our ships are built in our own shipyards using our own resources, following our own designs. Your shipyards, Dr. Vasquez replied with the same clinical detachment she had maintained throughout, receive regular deliveries of rare minerals that are essential for your manufacturing processes. Those minerals are artificially created in human laboratories and include embedded nanoscale control systems that we can activate at will. The implication hit the chamber like a physical blow. Every weapon, every defensive system, every piece of military hardware could be disabled instantly by human command. The galaxy's military forces were not independent powers. They were extensions of human infrastructure, operating under the illusion of autonomy. Kane checked a device on his wrist, technology that appeared impossibly advanced even by galactic standards. The transition to more formal cooperation has already begun, he announced. In approximately 4 hours, representatives from the Human Colonial Administration will arrive at every major government center in the galaxy. They will be carrying detailed implementation protocols for the new administrative structure. High Arbiter. Thalan's voice was barely a whisper, and if we refuse to cooperate with this transition, Kane's expression remained diplomatically pleasant, but something in his eyes grew measurably colder. High Arbiter. That option was removed from consideration some time ago. The holographic display shifted to show what would happen if human support systems were withdrawn from galactic civilization. Communication networks would go dark as the amplification relays that carried signals across interstellar distances shut down. Transportation systems would fail as the hyperspace corridor stabilizers that made faster-than-light travel possible ceased functioning. Food production would collapse as the agricultural supplements that maintained soil fertility in countless worlds stopped being delivered. Withdrawal of human support at this point, Dr. Vasquez explained, would result in the immediate collapse of galactic civilization. Billions of beings would face starvation, isolation, and technological regression within a matter of months. The assembled representatives stared at the projections, showing their respective homeworlds descending into chaos. The scenarios were not threats. They were simply the inevitable result of removing infrastructure that their civilizations could no longer survive without. However, Kane added, his tone brightening considerably, formal cooperation offers significant advantages that go far beyond simple survival. New images appeared in the holographic display, technologies that could extend individual lifespans by millennia, starlifting techniques that could prevent stellar collapse and extend the life of entire solar systems, defensive systems that could protect entire galactic sectors from cosmic catastrophes that had previously been considered inevitable. Under formal human administration, Dr. Vasquez explained, every species will be given access to technologies that will transform your civilizations beyond current recognition. No more resource conflicts, no more territorial disputes, no more extinction events caused by natural disasters or evolutionary limitations. Kane gestured to encompass the entire chamber and everyone in it. The choice before you is not whether to accept human administration. That decision was made long ago when you integrated our technologies into your infrastructure. The choice is whether to continue the pretense of independence while we guide your development from the shadows, or to accept formal integration and gain access to benefits that will revolutionize your existence. The weight of inevitability settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. This was not negotiation. It was simply the revelation of an accomplished fact that had been hidden for centuries.